What is going on, everyone? I hope you are all having a fantastic day. So we're still waiting on the Senate to finish their debates and voting on the HEROES Act, but things aren't looking too great for that proposal, and while I wouldn't say it's completely dead in the water, I'm not holding my breath. So that would bring Congress as a whole really back to square one, and we do have a new proposal that does have some holes, but personally I think it has a lot of potential. And this proposal would give you $450 per week on top of your regular pay once you do go back to work and no longer need unemployment benefits if you are currently unemployed. So let's break down what this would look like and how realistic a proposal like this is when combined with some other ideas that could net you a pretty great payday. Be sure to subscribe and hit the like button if you do enjoy today's video, and let's jump right into it. So first of all, what is happening with the HEROES Act? While it's currently unclear when the Senate is planning to vote on this bill, Mitch McConnell, who is the majority leader in the Senate, did give us some pretty good insight yesterday in an interview. He said, quote, "We cannot keep propping up the economy forever," and also said that the solution is testing, treatment, and a vaccine, which is an interesting twist on what we've heard from Nancy Pelosi, who is the Speaker of the House on the other side of the aisle, who said that the solution is testing, treatment, and tracing. However, the important part is that McConnell said that another round of stimulus will likely be necessary, but said that it will not cost $3 trillion, which is how much the HEROES Act would cost. And he called this, quote, laughable, which is not a great sign for the HEROES Act considering the Senate is controlled by McConnell's party. So while the HEROES Act may not be too popular with Senate Republicans, some members have already begun proposing new ideas, including Senator Portman, who was the first to mention the possibility of giving everyone a $450 per week bonus pay once they do get back to work. And this concept is based on the issue that we've talked about a few times before, which is the fact that millions of workers are currently making more on unemployment than they were working full-time at their job. And this is largely due to the $600 in additional unemployment benefits that was part of the CARES Act. And remember that most states offer their own unemployment benefits, usually around $200 per week, meaning that most people are making $800 or more per week just sitting at home. And for nearly 70% of individuals who are on unemployment currently, they are making more just sitting at home than they were working full-time at their job. So honestly, who can really blame them for not wanting to go back? I mean, let's say you were making $15 per hour and you were working 40 hours per week. That would be $600 per week, and remember, that is before taxes. I mean, would you rather get $600 per week working full-time or $800 per week doing absolutely nothing? Some people would probably think that's an immoral decision to make, but honestly, this is what most people are dealing with right now, and a lot of people would rather just sit at home, and that's put employers in a pretty difficult situation. And while these additional $600 unemployment benefits are supposed to end in mid-July of this year, the HEROES Act proposed that this would extend to January 31st of 2021, which would only extend this problem that needs a solution quickly. And that's where Senator Portman's idea for $450 in bonus pay comes in. Now, this is not a formal written proposal, but was simply something that Senator Portman discussed in a recent speech a few days ago. Essentially, he said that when individuals go back to work, they would receive a boost in pay of $450 per week for a given period of time that was not specified. On the surface, this does have a few benefits, since states would no longer have to pay their own unemployment benefits and could put this money elsewhere during this economic difficulty. The federal government could also reduce its own payment of $600 per week down to $450 per week, which would obviously help with the rapidly increasing deficit, and this would help get the economy moving again and get people back to work. Okay, so this isn't a horrible idea, and honestly, I am a fan of it. However, there are some really big holes that we definitely need to discuss. First of all, and most importantly, it is still not safe for a lot of people to go back to work. And I know I've said this many times, but I think it's important to reiterate the fact that the health and safety of you and your coworkers is far more important than any amount of stimulus. So there's that glaring issue, but also some states pay significantly more than that $200 per week average that we talked about. I mean, Massachusetts pays a maximum of $800 per week, meaning if you're getting that plus the $600 in additional unemployment from the federal government, then you're currently chilling at home earning a cool $1,400 per week doing absolutely nothing. And if you're watching this right now in Massachusetts and you're in that situation, then to you I say, congratulations. You have successfully fallen into the perfect situation in this complicated and messed up system that we have right now. So obviously the issue with this is that giving $450 in bonus pay may not be enough to incentivize people to come back to work, since depending on where you may live, you may be earning more on unemployment even with this $450 in bonus pay factored in. As if those two issues weren't enough, there's also another glaring issue, and that is, what about those who either recently returned to work or never stopped working in the first place? Again, this isn't a formal proposal, but Senator Portman did make it pretty clear that this bonus pay would be an incentive for individuals who are returning to work. So from that, we can assume that people who have either already returned to work or never stopped working since they are an essential worker would not receive this bonus pay. And obviously, that is a pretty big issue. I mean, if you're a worker who just returned to work, then this would kind of suck. But what if you're an essential worker who never stopped working in the first place? You've probably been risking your own life and saving other people's lives depending on your line of work. So why should the individual who's been sitting at home doing nothing get this $450 in bonus pay while you would receive nothing? I mean, under this idea, the individual working at American Eagle would receive $450 in bonus pay for returning to work, while the nurse who has been risking their life day in and day out would get nothing. Obviously, that is a really big issue, and if this does actually get proposed, I hope that they address this right off the bat, since this would be unpopular to say the least. However, each of those issues could be addressed, other than maybe the serious problem that for a lot of people it's not safe to go back to work. But I do see a lot of potential in this bill, since it is much more simple than some of the other ideas that we may have seen. Remember that this is not the first proposal which was designed to incentivize individuals to go back to work. The president himself has spent a lot of time talking about a payroll tax cut, and we have seen all sorts of other incentives like student loan forgiveness and even hazard pay on both sides of the aisle. But many of these came with complicated stipulations and income limits that would only make this entire process a lot slower and more difficult, which is really the last thing we need right now, especially considering the errors that have already occurred with the CARES Act. So something like a straightforward payroll boost that was flat across the board might be a viable solution if some of these other issues could be addressed. I also think a plan like this would be more appealing to House Democrats if this bonus pay were to be extended beyond the current unemployment deadline, which is currently in mid-July, and that would cut off the $600 per week in additional unemployment benefits. Remember that the HEROES Act, which was proposed by House Democrats, wants to extend the additional unemployment benefits to early next year. So perhaps by using the same model with the bonus pay proposed by Senate Republicans, the two sides could actually meet at a compromise in the middle and get something done for once. So personally, I have a feeling that the $450 number would be adjusted one way or another, but the base principle of this proposal is actually pretty sound as long as some of the other issues that we discussed could be addressed. I would love to see a flat payment across the board for all working individuals, regardless of whether they have been working this entire time, recently returned to work, or plan on returning to work in the near future. This would really just be another way to distribute a flat stimulus check, but it would also help people get off of those really large unemployment benefits and get back to work, again, as long as the employer is able to adapt and make it safe to do so. Now, we have heard a response from the White House on this proposal from economic advisor Larry Kudlow, who we have heard a lot about over the past few weeks. Kudlow discussed this idea in a recent interview and said that they are spending a lot of time looking into this as a viable option. So even though the White House doesn't have a whole lot of input at the moment, it is a good sign, and it's good to know that they are open to this idea if it does get proposed. As we know, the White House is also quite fond of a payroll tax cut, which has been criticized for a number of reasons, but a payroll tax cut of, say, 7% that has been proposed would give the average individual an additional $2,000 at the end of the year if they're making a median wage around $30,000 a year. Obviously, if you make more or less, then you would receive a greater or smaller tax break, but $2,000 for your average individual isn't a horrible idea. Plus, this paired with the $450 in additional pay could be a great benefit for the average American worker. So if we had a payroll tax cut and the $450 in bonus pay for, say, 6 weeks, that would be another $2,700, meaning the average worker would have a $5,000 incentive to go back to work, which for most people is pretty good. Once it's safe to get back to work, this could be a great incentive, especially for those who are working hourly or in a lower income bracket. There are definitely some holes in this proposal that absolutely must be addressed, and I'm always hesitant to support these payroll boosts since I know for many individuals they don't have a job to go back to. But once the economy begins to stabilize and the unemployment numbers finally begin to fall again, this could be a great way to jumpstart the economy and get some extra money in the pockets of the American consumers. Obviously, this can then be spent and circulated in the economy and help us get out of this economic dip. So of course, let me know what you think of this down in the comment section below, and if you would see a benefit from this or if you think it's a bad idea since a lot of people may not have a job to go back to at the moment. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you did enjoy today's video and get your free $75 from SoFi using the first link in the description. Thank you so much for your time, take it easy, and I'll see you in the next one.